and welcome back if you've been following along with our series of YouTube videos and our blog and other ways we are trying to get information to parents and students to help through this process of applying to college. Today, I want to talk about the Common App and some of the mistakes that are common that students make when they are working on their application and how we can help avoid those and how that will make for a better process overall for hopefully better outcomes overall in the long run. So first of all, let me take a step back and make sure that everyone understands exactly what the Common App even is. So the Common Application has been around for decades. It is a tool that was designed to really streamline the college application process. In other words, gone are the days of filling out a separate application for every school that a student applies to. It is designed to, again, one primary portion of the application is done just one time and then sent to multiple schools. I believe the list of schools accepting the Common App now is nearly 1,000, and that has grown exponentially over the years of its existence, and that has made it far more popular and made it much easier for students in this process over the course of time. So they fill out the main, what I call the main body of the Common Application, like I said, just one time. And then that portion of the application gets sent to every school on their list that they're applying to, assuming that they are accepting the Common Application. There are a few holdouts. Georgetown is one of the last holdouts in terms of colleges that are not yet ready to go, or haven't been, I should say, ready to go to the Common App, but they're about to. In one more year, they will join the Common App ranks and make it another easier place for students to apply to in the long run. But I digress. In terms of the Common App, the main body of the Common App, done one time, then submitted to multiple schools. The difference or the differentiator in this process is the separate individual questions that each school then asks. So students populate a list of colleges within their Common App account, and from there, they are able to then see what each college is asking from them. Some of them are very similar questions, things like, when do you intend to enroll? Do you intend to apply? Early action, regular decision, etc. You have to answer that individually for every school. Then each school will ask their own series of questions. Some ask right on the application about your residency. What state do you claim to live in, and then how do you prove that you are a resident of the state that is your home state for purposes of in-state tuition consideration. Some of them have additional supplemental essays embedded in this portion of the application. So that part varies individually from school to school, and they get to decide what questions they want asked over there. So on the surface, it feels like a pretty straightforward tool, something that students who are pretty tech savvy these days are comfortable filling out and navigating. I am surprised every year by some of the questions that we get asked about how to respond to certain parts of the application, how to handle certain questions here and there. Can I ignore this question, et cetera, et cetera. So let's talk through a few of those things. So let's start at the most obvious types of mistakes. First and foremost, it is simply going too fast through the application. So typos get made. Students don't read the question quite accurately enough and answer it incorrectly. Students are not giving themselves enough time to thoroughly articulate their activities and really using the activities resume as a place to highlight their work, volunteerism, other involvement, whether in school, church, community, etc. And they shortchange themselves sometimes because they don't present that part extra strongly when it comes to using that as a real opportunity to share with the college what they've been up to. They make grammar mistakes and just are careless at times about formatting. And while all of these individually can be really small mistakes, we don't want them to add up and be bigger in terms of just making the student on the surface look bad in terms of how they are answering the questions. Some of the other nitty-gritty things I mentioned, sort of skipping certain questions. There are some questions that may be labeled as optional. Only very occasionally are optional questions or optional requests in this process truly optional. What I like to say is that if 15 other students are doing it and answering the question, but you're the one, number 16, who decides not to, do you think you're going to stand out in a good way or a bad way in terms of that? Again, every now and again, there are specific questions that truly are optional, and we can help students understand what those are when they come up. But for the most part, they want to make this a fast process. So it's easy to cut corners when the word optional pops up. They also sometimes are not giving themselves just enough time even to meet deadlines. So therefore, obviously they are going faster than they need to through all of this because time is of the essence and they don't want to run out of time and they have to meet the deadlines. The other sort of less obvious things that sometimes happen, sometimes there are inconsistent details. Students may not realize that, things like dates or even titles or even where they report their GPA or how it's formatted may get done in different ways in different sections. And they didn't mean to, they weren't paying attention to what did they already put when they answered the question about it previously. So keeping it consistent is something that we always talk to our students about. Like, this is important to show that you are paying attention to these minor details. You also just don't want there to be discrepancies. Think about it this way. You don't want readers to have to pause and go, okay, wait a minute, hold on. I don't know which is which. I don't know which is correct here. And making sure that they're not having to go back and forth to other places, like to look at the transcript or to read a letter of recommendation, anywhere else where they might be able to sort out that information. Accuracy really matters, and we want them to think about those kinds of things. I've already touched on the activity section. We don't want them to skimp on that. It is I will say the word difficult. I do think it is difficult to accurately and really robustly describe what you've been doing in high school in 150 characters or less. And that's what you get, is 150 characters to highlight each one of your 10 activities that you can put into the Common Application. So we work really hands-on with our students, helping them lead in with strong language and discussing how they use scope and context to really highlight the activities that they've been doing, and trying to get it boiled down to something that a reader who is reading, quite honestly, very quickly can really grasp onto. What are the highlights, and how do we make sure that those are what really pop out in that section of the application? In terms of the essay, I've done other videos related to the essay, so that's a completely separate piece of this application as far as I'm concerned, even though I do understand that they are one and the same, they go together. But in terms of time spent on that, I am talking today specifically about the basics of the Common Application itself. But one thing I will just say about the essay is, students also have to be very careful about proofreading in that area. So mistakes are common. Teenagers are often moving quickly through this world, and we want to be sure that we help them in every way we can minimize the mistakes on their applications. So to help with that, our team is actually putting together a Common App workshop. We've done this every summer for the past few years, live and in person in Charlotte. And we are doing that again in August. And if you'd like more information about that, you can click the link to find out more about how to register. We are also working on one to be in person in the Atlanta area, also in August. So stay tuned for more information as we pull that one together. And finally, if there is enough interest, we would offer an online version as well for families who are not located in either of those two cities where we are on the ground and in person. So reach out if you have questions about any of it. Like I said, the Charlotte one is ready to go. August 5th is the date for that. And we are taking registrations already. And we would love to hear from you if you're interested in more information about an Atlanta area one or even an online version. So remember, bottom line, proofread, 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 and be sure you are presenting yourself, or if you're helping your student, that you're helping them present themselves in the strongest possible way. Have a great day.